Hello and welcome to the Computer Guru Show. My name's Mike, here to deal with your technology needs while treating you like a person in the process. 790-2040, that's 520-790-2040 if you want to be part of the show. This is one of those weeks where I wish that I had a 2-hour show again, just because
so much has gone on.
I've been a bit active on this particular thing. I rarely deal in absolutes.
You rarely deal in Facebook, too.
Well, yes, but I have this week, and I've been a bit snarky, and I've been issuing absolutes, saying things like, you're either for strong encryption or you're wrong. And it's been interesting. I've had a couple of discussions with people over the week about this. I went to one of the events that I occasionally get invited to that's, kind of radio-based over the week. And there was some interesting points of view being brought up about the San Bernardino shooter phones and Apple's resistance to the FBI request. I'm going to call it a request, not necessarily an order. The resistance to the request of the FBI to help them break into a phone. And I have issues with this whole...
Of course you do.
This whole situation. You know how I feel about, security and making sure that our individual security on computers is well guarded. We went on a nearly year-long rant on the whole NSA thing a couple of years ago. And there's some issues with this whole thing. And part of it is, I think that this is a real shocker here, but I think that the largest problem for me stems from the apparent dishonesty of the FBI's request.
No, you wouldn't say that?
I would,
really?
Yeah. And that's the part that bothers me the most, because you've got people kind of painting this whole situation with Apple versus the FBI as Apple's just doing this as a stunt. They're trying to use it as an advertising platform. They're more concerned about their image than they are about the patriotic duty which they should have to unlock this particular phone. And then I start to say, no. And then they say, and they've done it 70 times before in the past, which was this sort of argument where they've unlocked phones in the past for individuals.
They were different iOSs, though.
There's a whole lot of differences between this particular instance, and the request was different also.
Yes.
Okay, so there are some problems with the entire way that this thing is playing out. And it just bothers me. It makes me want to get all ranty on my show.
Yeah, well, people like that sometimes. So
and I haven't really been all that ranty in a while.
No, you really haven't.
So today's going to be that day.
Woo!
And this is where I was wishing that there was a 2-hour show today. Who knows? Maybe the guest for the teacher show next won't show up, and then I'll just be like, I'll take your hour.
There you go.
No, there was the whole issue here is that, and for those of you who may not know, is that the FBI has requested that Apple build a piece of software or an exploit to defeat the multiple wrong password penalty on the iPhone that was owned by one of the San Bernardino shooters. Now, that is a tall order. Now, on a new phone, that would be very, very tall order, but This is a 5C. It's an older generation phone. Technically, Apple could do this. And they've even admitted, yeah, we could do that, but we're not going to, is their response. The government is asking the Apple to create a piece of software or a defeat that does not currently exist. And they want... Apple is saying, well, we can't do that. We can't trust that this is going to be used the way we want it to.
Right.
And it would break down the trust that our customers have with us. And I think that those are very valid excuses
Right.
or reasons not to. Now the FBI is saying, well, it's going to be a one-off, right? You're just writing the software for this particular phone. They're saying you can even make it so that it only works with the particular hardware ID of this particular phone. We're totally cool with that. We would just like some help. Now this is like Wednesday we're talking about here. And Apple's still saying, no, we're not going to do this.
Right.
We're not going to basically betray our customers' confidence that their data and their data is secure with us. Now, the FBI is saying, well, don't worry about that. You can trust us, right? We're going to make sure that we're the only people with a copy of this particular piece of software. It won't be a big deal. Now, this particular request of assurance, the FBI saying, hey, trust us. The FBI being the same organization that was hacked by a 13-year-old like 6 months ago. I can't really see that as I can trust that they're going to be safe with that.
Well, and there's other things too.
Yeah, there's a ton of things. I mean, even going back to the Snowden stuff, right? There's a lot of things that would lead you to believe that the FBI and its apparent open sharing with the NSA wouldn't necessarily, that assurance means nothing.
Well, and the FBI is not the only government entity in the world that would like to access iPhones.
Oh, yeah. Now, you also say, well, let's say that they hard code it for that one device.
Right.
How hard do you think it would be to reverse engineer that and modify it so it works with any phone? Mm-hmm. And that's a problem. And Apple's real concern here is not necessarily that governments and law enforcement agencies would use this nefariously, which we know it would.
Yeah, definitely.
But it would get out into the wild, right? Because if it gets out into the wild, then you're going to have your average hacker with the ability to reverse engineer this particular piece of software and make all iOS devices unsafe.
Right.
Now, there's been some new wrinkles in this story in the last couple of days. Like, while the phone was in law enforcement custody, someone reset the password on that phone.
Yeah.
Now, they knew about this a while back, but it only recently came to light that this particular password had been changed. And because that password changed is the reason they can't access any of the data on it, because it resets the encryption keys. Now, the San Bernardino County forensic IT is who did this, right? They identified that it was a person who acted on their own accord while they had the phone, reset the password on the phone in an attempt to get into the data, and in doing so, broke the backups of the way that works. They broke the backups of the phone, broke the encryption keys, so now the data is stuck. And that's why the FBI is asking for help. Now, because Apple had responded, they had asked Apple for help, and they're like, well, why didn't you just take it back to the shooter's Wi-Fi hotspot, right? Because you had access to get into the phone. All you had to do is take it back to a known network, and it would have ran a backup. And had that backup run, Apple could then give you the data contents of that backup. But getting the data out of the phone directly is something that Apple's not willing to do, because that's the part that's going to basically, they don't want to put a hole in their phone as far as security is concerned when they don't need to. Now, let's address those 70 previous instances of Apple helping out law enforcement with data from phones. One, they were much older phones where they didn't support the encryption types that are happening now.
Right.
Apple had the keys to all of the 4 phones and the first generation 5s. So they could decrypt any phone previous to the 5C. Starting with the 5C, Apple did one-sided keys, where they basically, you created the encryption key, Apple never got a copy of it. There was nothing they could do on their end to decrypt it in a time that is reasonable. Now with the new phones, with the 6s and newer, any of the phones that have the thumbprint the new thumbprint sensors in them. That is a hardware encryption, meaning it's much more difficult than the previous phones. Even without the keys, you could decrypt those in a reasonable amount of time. But you cannot at all do it on the new phones in any reasonable amount of time. And there's a fail-safe that's built in. This fail-safe says if you try to unlock the phone and you fail X number of times, the phone basically self-destructs. All the data's gone. So this is the thing that going forward that law enforcement would really like a help with, to disable that self-destruct mechanism within the phones. And Apple's still saying no. Now, I think that Apple's right for doing this. I think that they should absolutely not back down on encryption. And we're going to talk more about that when we get back from the break here. But first, I want to take a moment to mention our sponsors. And, first of all, being Perfection Auto Works. I wonder if they do encryption. We should talk to. We'll talk to Mike.
Encrypted cars.
Yeah, well, I want to encrypt my car. Mike Emery, I want my car encrypted. Can you do that for me?
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. Anyway, go down there, get your 26-point inspection for free. Absolutely free. It's our favorite number down here at the Computer Guru Show.
Free.
They are here to help you out with all of your car needs. And guess what? They'll treat you like a person too, because that's what they do. Check out Perfection Auto Works. Listen to their ad coming up next and visit their website, perfectionautoworks.com. We'll be right back.
Computer troubles? Need some advice? Call in now. Mike Swanson will be back after these messages. The Computer Guru Show, AM 1030, KVOY, The Voice. Your technology guru, Mike Swanson, is answering all your questions one by one.
Yes, science!
So chime in with yours. The website is gurushow.com. Tune in, click in, and kick back. This is the Computer Guru Show.
Welcome back to the Computer Guru Show. Give us a call at 790-2040 if you want to be part of the show. Oh, let's begin. Let's go ahead and talk with Greg. Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. I've been busy the last couple of 3 months. The state bar is after me for the work that I do, and that's the reason I called, because on the subject of law enforcement and what the FBI should or should not be allowed to do, or Apple giving up what the FBI wants, on that subject, I disagree with you, only because we're talking about terrorists. We're talking about folks who are in contact with those ISIS and Al-Qaeda and these folks that really want to do us harm. On a local level, though, the cops right and left daily, 10 times a day, they are stopping people who when they're watching a known suspected dope house, they'll follow somebody that drives away, and then they'll stop and say, well, you made the wrong lane change, or if it's at night, they'll say your license plate light isn't on. And then they'll call the judge, and they'll get a warrant. And, I mean, that's what's really affecting Americans, is the slipshod way that judges are giving these cops warrants to go into people's homes. And to me, that's more egregious than anything else the cops could be doing, because the judges, this is almost automatic. Now, the second part of the problem is the person or persons get arrested if they go in with that stun grenade and arrest everybody in the house. Then these folks, if they're poor, and I guess generally they are, they're assigned a public defender who has 40 or 50 cases, and they're just overwhelmed, and they're not really fighting for the rights of these individuals. So it's extremely frustrating, because somebody like me comes in, and I find out information that's exculpatory and could possibly have this defendant have the charges dropped. And the public defender will go to a judge and say, you got to shut this guy up, he's getting involved here. And the judge will issue an order saying, Greg Shannon Levitt can no longer talk to this individual. And I'm thinking, is that person aware of what we call the First Amendment? So, to take it back to the technology aspect, you know way more than I'll ever know about what it is the FBI needs. And, of course, the fear is that all they're going to use this for? And as your partner there said, there are other agencies, and as you pointed out, there's kids that can get into the FBI's website, and then the whole thing crumbles.
Right. Now, here's my deal with the and this calls back to the whole 70 previous instances where Apple has helped out.
Right.
And the difference was it was information that Apple had or tools that Apple already had that were able to help the law enforcement agencies previously. What they're asking for is for Apple to create a new, does not exist in the world yet, tool for breaking into iPhones. And Apple's saying, well, we're not going to create that for you. You want to go for it on your own? Go for it. Right? But there's safeguards built in, as we mentioned.
Right.
And there's a certain amount of, I understand that there's terrorism involved here, but I have this sort of automatic knee-jerk response to either it's for the children or it's because of terrorism that we need to degrade the rights of everyone.
Right.
And for me, that bothers me as far as I think that people do not pay enough attention to the other constitutional right. You mentioned the right to free speech, but the right to privacy and the right to be free from illegal search and seizure. And if you generate a tool that makes it easy to backdoor a phone where a government entity could look at the contents of your phone or your online life without you knowing about it at any time with no repercussion, then that to me is a problem. And that's why that I'm so staunchly for strong, unbreakable encryption. Right, because what's going to happen, and we already see this happening, where there's attempts to introduce legislation that will make hardened encryption illegal in the United States because of these things, and they're using the because of the terrorists argument. And the problem is with that is it's similar to gun control. Let's say that you say, well, it is now illegal for everyone to have a gun. Only people that will have guns are the people who aren't paying attention to the law. And the same thing's going to happen with encryption. If you make encryption illegal for law-abiding citizens, the only people that will have the encryption are the terrorists.
That was my immediate thought yesterday when the Pima College announced we're banning all guns on campus, even if you have a right to concealed carry. And I thought, well, that's wonderful. Now the bad guys like this Lockton fellow, they'll be the only ones with guns, and the rest of us who are law-abiding, who might be able to intervene when there's an incident, we're not allowed to have guns.
Right. So the same thing's going to happen with encryption. And I've started writing an article about this, and I'll probably have it published by Monday. But what started it was Donald Trump saying something remarkably stupid about encryption. And it just set me off. And then I had to start writing this particular article.
Yeah.
And what it comes down to for me, and if you've listened to the show for a long time, you kind of know where my thoughts are on this particular thing. But somewhere in a cave in Afghanistan, there is some dude that has more technological understanding than the entire legislative branch of our government.
Right.
And that is the scary part for me, because as soon as you start taking away our rights to try to catch those guys who are already smarter than the lawmakers as far as technology is concerned, then you've got an issue where you're degrading my personal right to digital privacy because you can't figure out that he's not even using regular, here's the deal. If you were to go, a lot of the terrorists use iPhones, right? We know this because they're strong devices. And the new Android devices are just as strong, just so everyone knows. But the messaging apps that they're using and the communication apps that they're using aren't the built-in ones. They're not even trackable through Apple anyway. Right. So they're spend all this time and money arguing with Apple privately or publicly about this and saying, well, we need into this phone to find this particular terrorist, and they're not going to learn anything anyway because they're using applications like WhatsApp and Kik and these things that are completely encrypted from end to end.
Makes me wonder if the motivation by the FBI isn't so much this particular phone, but just looking at the rest of us.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's why I'm throwing the fit, right? And that's why a lot of security experts and people who deal with encryption, if you've been listening to anyone that is who understands technology in the news, they're saying, no, Apple's doing the right thing.
Yep.
And the reason that is because we want to be safe in the future. If you think about if you're building a house, and you're building this house because you want to feel like you're in your castle at the end of the day, and you want to feel safe, right? So you buy these high-end locks, and you've got great thick doors and walls. Hell, you build a moat, right? So you've got all of these things that you feel safe and secure behind, and people have said, well, you can trust this particular moat. This brand of moat is uncrossable.
Right.
Right. But that particular moat maker has decided, well, we're going to put in a little rope bridge for the government just in case.
And of course, that leads me back to when you have this house that's so fabulously protected, and an officer wants to get in there, and under the pretext of, well, we saw this or that activity, and the judge says, go ahead and blast your way in. That's what I try to do on my side, is prevent that.
Right. And we want to prevent that on our side, right? As far as the technology people are concerned and security experts, as we want safety and security. Because as soon as you put that back door into encryption, nothing is safe online ever again.
Well, I think that folks that are listening to us now, Mike, realizing the importance of these kinds of conversations, if they have businesses, they need to call you or whatever that site is where they can donate and keep you going. I think that's important because you're doing a good thing here. Keep up the good work, bud.
Appreciate the call, Greg. Thank you very much. Yeah, the issue is that if you start making things weaker for a particular purpose, you can't trust. You can't trust that weakness is going to remain a secret of the people that are entrusted to have it.
Well, like with the rope bridge, just because it's there for one person doesn't mean other people won't use it. And if they make your moat illegal, the guy next door, who's the bad guy, he's not going to take his moat away. He's going to keep it.
Right. So, yeah, there are a whole bunch of lesser issues, and I think that our government, and especially our politicians that are running for president right now, they're saying things that just they're so,
they need to learn first.
There's so much idiocy in a single breath when it comes to our technology and the way that it affects all of us moving forward. This is Computer Guru Show. We'll be right back.
Mike Swanson, your computer guru, is just a click away. Listen and watch at gurushow.com. This is a Computer Guru Show on KVOI, The Voice.
Welcome back to this particularly ranty version of the Computer Guru Show. My name's Mike, here to deal with your problems and possibly yell at you about it. 790-2040. Wait, that's not how that goes.
No.
Treat you like a
Not
person.
at all.
Well, let's see if we can treat somebody like a person. Let's talk to Jim. Hello, Jim. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Hope you can help me.
I'll give it a shot.
Got a question about Wi-Fi. I noticed yesterday my computer was running slow, so I just happened to check the Wi-Fi setting, and it had been changed to Xfinity Wi-Fi.
Right.
And that's not what I normally use. I normally use my own router for Netgear.
Right.
It was changed to the Xfinity, and I didn't do it. Do you have any idea how that happened or how I can prevent it from happening?
You can prevent it from happening. Which version of Windows do you have?
I have Mac.
You have a Mac. Okay. So there is a setting in your network preferences for Mac that there's a little checkbox that says automatically join unsecured Wi-Fi. And you want to take that checkbox out. Depends on which one.
And that's where at?
It's in your network preferences. So system settings, network, and on your Wi-Fi adapter, there's a little checkbox there that will basically prevent it from joining unsecured networks. By default, Macs will join any unsecured Wi-Fi network that there is, and the Xfinity network is basically your cable modem or a neighbor's cable modem that has its own built-in hotspot. And you just connected to that because it happened to be either the strongest signal when you turned on your Mac most recently, or maybe your particular router rebooted, and during that time it connected to another network.
Yeah, and I happen to see that the Xfinity is not protected. It's not locked.
Right, and that's why your computer connected to it.
Okay.
So the way you prevent that is you tell your computer not to connect to unsecured networks, which is a good practice anyway.
Okay. All right.
Right on. Thanks for the call, Jim.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, help somebody.
Yeah, good job.
I know. It's weird.
You get a gold star and
don't
a
even
cookie.
know what to do with it. Okay. So yeah, this entire episode has been about encryption, and so I have to admit I have a certain respect for Donald Trump as far as his ability to just say whatever. I like the unfiltered bit about him to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what he's saying, but the fact that he's unfiltered I find refreshing and entertaining.
I find that refreshing and entertaining from my 5-year-old too.
Right. And that's sort of the same thing, right? Is that there's no guile, right? There's just sort of, he doesn't have time to lie. He's just going to, well, that's probably not true, but
Yeah.
he's just saying things that are just like absurd. And I find it entertaining, right? And I think that's great.
Both sides are a circus right now.
Yes.
Both sides.
So I spent the greater part of 2 days now researching the potential candidates' stance on encryption and privacy when it comes to the digital world. And of course, there's it's always in the context of terrorism. And in one case, it was in the context of child pornography. That the government should absolutely have a backdoor into encryption to make it easier for them to deal with the problems that they have.
Right.
As far as, convicting people or otherwise doing research on individuals. And as much as I would love to say that I agree with that, I don't. Yes, I want terrorists to be caught. And yes, I think child pornographers are terrible humans and need to be dealt with. At the same time, though, I'm not willing to give up my digital security for them.
Right.
And of course, there are ways that you can make it harder for those individuals, to do what they do online.
Other than stripping everybody's rights.
Right, other than making everyone's rights go away, correct. But what really started this was when asked about the Apple controversy with the FBI, Donald Trump said, well, of course we need access to these particular phones. It's common sense. And he finds himself to be a common sense candidate. And you put all those things together, and I have this visceral reaction that basically says, first of all, common sense and Donald Trump do not exist in the same sentence. And secondly, you can't just say that the government needs a backdoor into this. And you can't just say that, you want to build walls.
Yeah.
Right. And then tear down all the digital ones. You can't do that and be the presidential candidate that you're proclaiming to be or purporting to be. So.
But then again, we've already discussed that the top officials in government really don't know that much about technology.
Right, and that's sort of the next part of this, is where I get always angry, is that
letting their websites lapse and,
Well, we talked a couple of years ago about the lead cyber terrorism advocate for the United States, the person that was going to talk to China and say, hey, we want to curb this cyber terrorism thing, that did not know what the letters ISP stood for. And that's common knowledge. Right. So if you don't understand what an internet service provider is, then you are not qualified to be the person speaking on the behalf of the United States about cyber terrorism. Then you just once again calling back to Donald Trump, where he says, well, I'm going to have to call up Bill Gates and see if we can get him to shut off the internet for ISIS.
Bill Gates is going to laugh at
There's
him.
one sentence there that has a level of stupidity that I cannot even comprehend. Now,
see, he's calling the wrong person. He shouldn't be calling Bill Gates. He should be calling Al Gore if he wants him to turn off the internet.
So and I understand why this was not a big deal, right, when this was said, because most people just don't know, right? And if you're in technology, if you live in this world and you understand how the internet works, you would understand how absurd it is, that entire sentence, right? One, you can't just go shutting off the internet. You can't do that. Hey, do you know how hard it is to turn off the internet? There was a study that was done that basically, was testing that theory. Could the internet be shut off? And the answer is no. You cannot shut off the internet. It's so decentralized now that there's no way to shut that off. Now you're looking at countries like North Korea or Syria to a certain extent.
Even China.
Well, China's its
Certain
own
things.
own
Yeah.
deal, but for the common world,
Right.
it's very, very difficult to shut it. For the United States, it's impossible to shut it off. Now, you start looking at these smaller countries like Syria and all of these other things, then, yeah, because they only have a couple of pipes coming in, right? There's only a couple of fiber optic lines that are making it into the country. So, yeah, you could effectively shut off the internet in the Middle East if you wanted to.
Right.
But that's an infrastructure thing. You can't just call somebody up and say, hey, Billy Gates, I would like the internet to not function. Now, that's the second part of this thing that is ridiculous. Is Bill Gates cannot shut off the internet. Right?
Yeah, only Al
the
Gore
dude's
can.
rich, right? He could buy every pair of, we did the math on this, he could buy every pair of blue jeans that were for sale in the world and cause a shortage, literally. But he could not shut off the internet.
But how many people actually know that,
And
Mike? I mean, you see these people, these newscasters going up and down the street and say, yeah, where's Indiana? Where's the state of Indiana? And they can't answer the question. I mean, just common knowledge things. So this is another one.
this is where the trifecta, the perfect storm of just that sentence makes me crazy, right? As far as there's the whole common sense bit, right? Totally uncommon. And then secondly, Bill Gates can't shut off the internet. Wrong dude, right? In fact, I don't know that there is a dude that you can call to make that happen.
Probably not.
And then secondly, it's the internet. The whole point of it is that it is not to be shut down. Now, let's say that you manage to shut down, right? Let's say that you go a step past you found the right dude, right? That can shut off the internet. You're just like, I finally found him. My ad on Craigslist was totally successful. I have found the dude that can shut off the internet to ISIS. And you would then cause a gigantic humanitarian crisis, right?
Yeah.
Because many, many people, especially in the impoverished world that is the Middle East, that is their only way to understand a world that is not a generational spanning war. That is their only way to be in contact with loved ones or to get help if they need it. All right. As far as it's because we all know that not everyone in the Middle East is a terrorist. So why would you then shut off the internet?
Well, we have several bases out there of our own
Right. And
that require internet.
satellite, but
Well, some of it not.
What's scarier is how many people resonated with that statement that Trump made. That's scary to me. I mean, how many people actually said, "Oh yeah,
Well, and it's not-
I'm for you, man. Do it."
Let's go ahead and take this a step further because me doing all the research on all of the candidates, with the exception of Mr. Paul, everyone's like, yeah, go ahead, let him in.
It's because they don't know.
Right? And of course Hillary Clinton's like,
Well,
she's all over the place on this, right? She's waffling. And she's saying, well, let's just go ahead and get some talks going. We need talks with the leaders of industry and figure out a way that we can deal with this problem to make it so that the government can get in and you can still have strong encryption. The problem is that those two things cannot exist at the same time.
well, she wouldn't want to be a hypocrite.
So there's a lot of...
I'm just
She
saying.
just totally derailed me with that.
Sorry.
You cannot have strong security and government backdoors. They cannot exist at the same time. It just cannot happen. It's like, I want a new car, right, that is used. They cannot exist at the same time, right? You cannot do that. So it just shows a level of not understanding what encryption is and how important it is. And Hillary, of all people, totally understand the importance of encryption. Obviously, she doesn't understand security as a whole.
Or else she wouldn't be in this problem, would she?
Yeah, I saw this interesting, the memes you see on the internet.
Yes.
Right, and so it had Tom Cruise from the You Want the Truth movie.
Yeah.
What was that movie? Few Good Men.
Few good
Yes.
men.
Yeah. So it had Tom Cruise in his outfit, and he's like, I want the truth. And the next frame was, Hillary going, I deleted the truth.
Yeah.
But, and there's a certain amount of truth to that, too. So let's talk to Bill. Let's change the subject here. Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks for taking my call. First, I'd like to thank you for the show. I think your informative and accurate explanation of FBI and Apple was very much appreciated by me because there's not much accurate stuff being reported that I see.
Yeah, welcome to the news.
Exactly. And also, you're right on about Donald Trump. I agree with all of your sentences about him, too. But in any event, I've got a HP desktop here, and I've got 6 DIMM slots, and only 2 of them are filled, 4 and 4 for 8 megabytes, and I'm thinking it wouldn't hurt me to add a couple more 4 megabyte cards. My question is, what do I need to know in order to get something that will function appropriately when I add them? And is there anything I need to know other than getting in there and dropping them into the slots and letting Windows take care of the rest of it?
All right.
I can tell you what I know about them.
Okay.
They're DIMMs. I have 6 DIMM slots. 2 are filled. The memory type is DDR3. They're SD RAM and 133 megahertz. Do I need to know any more than that?
All right. So they're DDR3 slots.
Yes.
So don't use DIMMs because you'll confuse the person that you're buying them from. Believe me, especially if you're buying them locally, nobody that you're buying memory from will even understand what a DIMM slot is. And then secondly, because they weren't even alive when DIMM slots were all the rage. So the DDR3 chips is what you need, and you have 4 gigabyte chips at the moment.
Right.
What do you do on this machine?
Well, just the usual stuff, but I would like to do some more as far as like video and sound.
Okay.
So it wouldn't hurt me to have, and I think they're pretty cheap.
They are relatively cheap, yeah, especially in the DDR3 realm. So you need DDR3 chips. You have 4 gig chips now. You have a match set. So you need the speed, of course, because DDR comes in 2 speeds commonly.
1333.
Right, 1333.
Right.
So you're going to need, wherever you go, like if you're going to go down to SWS or something, which is going to be your best bet locally.
What's SDS? Yeah, I know there.
SWS, right. So you're going to ask for DDR3, 4 gig, 1333 chips. And they will give you more.
So that's all I need is 4 gig, 1333 DDR3, and any manufacturer or anything that just...
Yeah, it doesn't really matter a whole lot when it comes to that.
Okay. And then when I drop them in, I just turn the machine on, right?
After you put them in, yeah.
Right, that's what I mean. But I don't have to do anything...
Nope, you don't have to make any adjustments. Windows will take care of that on its own. So you just do your thing. Turn it on and enjoy 16 gigs of RAM or 32 or whatever you're going to do.
Okay, I'm just loading up to 16 right now. Anyway, thanks so much. If that's all I need to know, I appreciate it.
Appreciate the call, Bill. Have a nice day. We'll be right back with more of the Computer Guru Show coming up right after these messages.
Whether you're dealing with hardware installation or, heaven forbid, a virus,
No!
Mike Swanson is answering all your questions one by one. So call in or chat in with yours. The website, gurushow.com. Tune in, click in, and kick back. This is the Computer Guru Show on AM 1030 KVOY The Voice. Mike Swanson, your computer guru, is just a click away. Listen and watch at gurushow.com. This is the Computer Guru Show.
Welcome back to the Computer Guru Show. My name is Mike, here to deal with your technology needs and treat you like a person in the process. We're going to close the encryption conversation here with that there is, I think, a concerted effort going on to paint encryption as a bad thing. And the truth is that encryption is something that you need all day long. It's like when that Wi-Fi connection that you've got to your router, it's encrypted. Anytime that you go to your banking website, it's encrypted. Anytime that you do anything online, it's encrypted. And it should be that way. All right, we don't necessarily want everyone to have the ability to eavesdrop on all of our communications, know our passwords, understand our world outside of what is visible from the outside. And I think that once you start taking encryption away, then that's a real problem for everyone. Mm-hmm. It's very much like limiting the freedom of speech, and we just can't have that. And I'd love to hear you guys' feedback on this. You can email us radio@azcomputerguru.com. Like I said, I'm going to be writing an article about this over the next couple of days.
Or visit Facebook or Twitter.
Right, and go to Facebook, Twitter. I want to hear what you guys have to say about encryption, because I'd really like to know the temperature, right, to feel the pulse here of what do you think about encryption, and what is your argument either for or against. That being said, let's go ahead and mention our sponsors. You can sponsor us, just as that caller had suggested, Greg had suggested. You can sponsor us at patreon.com/Guru Show, or you can go to gurushow.com and click on the link where you can donate as little as $1 a month. If you find the show useful, informative, if you just think it's funny and like to laugh at me, that's fine too. And I will allow you to laugh at me for $1 a month.
There you go.
There you go. And I think that it's just a way to help us keep the lights on and pay the bills to actually be here on the air every week to provide you guys with free help and hopefully some entertainment and information. You can also donate more than $1 a month, and you can become a sponsor, just like
Desert Pro Commercial Cleaning, LLC, the best Tucson janitorial services, and you can find them at TucsonDesertPro.com.
Now, these guys are great. We very much appreciate them sponsoring us. You should give them a call and let them know that you thank them for sponsoring the show as well. And perhaps you can get them to come clean your office space. They do a great job, and they're very, very cost efficient.
You could come check out their work over at the Eastside location.
Yep, and go over to 64 North Harrison. It's actually open today. Yeah. Go over to 64 North Harrison, and you can check out their handiwork over there. And lastly, we'll mention the other sponsor, which is
Perfection Auto Works.
Yep, perfectionautoworks.com. You can go check them out and get your 26-point inspection for free. Now, come visit our website, azcomputerguru.com or gurushow.com, to know more about what we do.